Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this quarter's Alliance Forum. My name's Craig Hardingham from the UK BIM Alliance Communities Leadership Team, and I'll be your chair for today. Thank you for joining us virtually. We've got a packed agenda for this afternoon, which I'll run through with you shortly. But before then, let me just take you through GoToWebinar. You're all in listen-only mode. If you have a question, please ask this through the questions tab, as you can see here on the screen, and we'll have a Q&A session once everyone has presented. Please avoid using the raise your hand option. We're recording this forum and it will be shared on the UK BIM Alliance YouTube account as soon as we can afterwards. So the agenda, welcome, as I always said, from me, Craig. Then next up, we've got Andy Boutle, who will be giving us an Alliance update. Then Sue Butcher will be taking us through the guide of the manufacturer's plain language. Fiona Moore will then be speaking about the government and industry interoperability group. Sarah Davidson is then up next, talking about the UK BIM framework guidance. And then Casey's going to be talking us through an update of the Building Smart UK and Ireland certification, and then wrapping up with a Q&A session with all of our speakers today. So first up is Andy Bootl. Handing over to you, Andy.
Thank you, Craig, and yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Hope you're all doing well. So yeah, I'm going to give you a whistle-stop tour, I guess, through the various activities and of the BIM Alliance across all of our working arms, if you like. So if you could just click forward, Craig. Please, thanks. So I'll just touch on the State of the Nation annual survey. We've done a piece on that in the last two forums. So this is going to be just looking ahead quickly at the next one. I'll talk you through some of the more pertinent events that are coming up over the next month or so. Talk through affiliates, talk through communities, implementation, Building Smart UK and Ireland, and then ending with the technology group. So the State of the Nation annual survey, of course, the point of this is it's an annual survey, so we run it year on year. We've talked through the report and looked at some of the key trends and findings in the last forum, and there's a link at the bottom of that slide there if you wanted to go and you can find it on the website, but there's the link that will take you directly to that. But the point now is, as we're entering Q3 and looking ahead to Q4, we're going to start gearing up for the next one. And quite honestly, the question set won't change. We may look and add one or two questions, but it's important to keep that question set consistent. It's evergreen, I guess, and we want to spot trends and hopefully cast a wider net year on year. So we'll be reaching out. Do look out for that. We're going to go live again. This year we went live the first week back in January, so we plan to do the same again 2022. And the more of you that can share it, complete it, will help bring in that big data set where we can really start getting a good picture on industry. Thanks, Craig. Okay, so just an acknowledgement to our patrons, and these are our platinum patrons. So thanks again to those who effectively sponsor the Alliance and allow us to exist. And just moving on, acknowledgement to all of our other patrons, so that it's an ever-growing list of patrons, which is really good and keeps the lifeblood of the Alliance moving. So in terms of events, our community groups or communities, there's an event, and actually I'm involved with Craig actually on this one in the East, which is this coming Thursday. And we've got guest speakers from CDBB and CIH doing a bit of an update of the various activities of the Construction Innovation Hub, and also then talking about the developments regarding the National Digital Twin Programme. So that's this Thursday at 12:30. There's a link there to register. Please do join, listen in. And then coming up towards the end of November, the Kent region have an event coming up. We're not quite sure what that is yet. There's a placeholder there, but look out for that on the website under the events page. And then looking immediately to the next couple of weeks, we're at UK Construction Week, so the 5th to the 7th of October. The Alliance is effectively running and partnering to run the digital construction hub, as you can see there, and we've also got our own stand. So if you are going, do come and take part, come and talk to us. And there's a link there to the program underneath should you want to go and have a look, but there's quite a packed agenda over those 3 days that we're running on that stage. Okay, the big one, as we know, Digital Construction Week, which is coming up at the end of November, and again, excited to be back at in-person events, and that is the Alliance is the content partner for the BIM Village Theatre and BIM workshops there. Again, we've got our own stand as well. Link to the program, and just thinking about those of you who've been there before, if you come in when you come into the arena, it's at the top right hand corner. Stand B90 is where we'll be, and also just to note, the UK BIM framework as a collective is the BIM sponsor of DCW, so there'll be a presence and messaging there as well. The last point down there, as many of you know, unfortunately, we lost John Enyon a couple of months ago. Really sad, but there's been a really nice response in sort of remembering John and the great work he did. So we're in partnership with Class of Your Own. There's an eco classroom design happening on the 25th of November. Unlike the usual, it's not students, it's actually industry professionals, and you can see there's a number of different people leaning in from different disciplines to actually design an eco classroom as part of that initiative to remember John and carry on some of his great work in the past. If it's something you think you might want to get involved with, do drop Pam an email to the email address there and she can connect you in. Thanks, Craig. Okay, so moving on to affiliates. So our affiliates pro, so you can see the logos there. So we're now up to 21 professional institutes or trade associations as part of the affiliate program, which is really positive, and it's a growing number of organisations getting involved. The most recent one there is CAB Council for Aluminium in Building. And you can see the leadership team down the bottom right there, and we have put a call out to arms on social media recently, and I think we've got quite a number of people interested to try and bolster that team as that list of affiliates grows. Of course, there's more activities and more to manage, so we're expanding that team to help that program along. The next meeting where we bring all of those affiliates together is on the 21st of October, and again, it's an in-person affair. We're going for, or maybe a bit of a blend online for people who can't make it, but essentially it's going to bring those representatives together, and we're going to start to discuss themes and actual deliverables for next year, because we've had some quite good meetings to date where we've exposed some commonalities and challenges between the various organisations, but I think what we want to try and do is actually have some deliverables coming out of this that are useful to industry and to those organisations. So we'll look at that towards the end of the year. Thanks, Craig. And then in terms of the community groups, as we say, so that, again, for those of you who may not be aware, that involves all of the regional groups that were previously the BIM regions or UK BIM Alliance regions now, as you can see on the left, and then all of the BIM for specialist interest groups, with the leadership team again down the bottom there, are doing a great job coordinating all of these busy activities going on. So the next chairs meeting for all of those groups is the 14th of October, and the guys have been really busy working on the Back to Basics BIM campaign. That's very nearly ready to go live, so that's going to be a number of bite-sized excuse me, video snippets and interviews with people from all different disciplines. Also some live events and some other promotional pieces, and really trying to get us to focus back on the basics, as we know it is important. So that should be really helpful. They're also involved with a Highways UK event on the early November. Thank you, Craig. So the technology group. So looking back, and again, Paul Wilkinson chairs this piece, but looking back for September, I see myself there. So yeah, I did a quick update again on the recent report from the national survey, just bringing that team up to date. Some good discussion there. They were discussing modular and off-site technologies, product data, a common theme that keeps recurring. ISO 19650, interoperability, which again is a really big one, isn't it, for the technology providers? But that was again looking at the transition of the BIM Interoperability expert group to the government and industry interoperability group, which Fiona Moore's going to talk about a little later on and provide more detail. And then looking forward, there's a focus on COP26 and climate change, sustainability, FM and the Institute for, there's another apologies, forgotten the actual full name of that institute, but it's another facilities management institute there, and starting to engage on that front from a technology perspective. And then again, looking forward to digital twin agenda for January. Thank you, Craig. So our implementation team, and again, Sarah will be talking a little bit later on specifically around the guidance, but the guys are involved in, that's probably the key amount of work that team are doing, but they are involved a little bit wider than just the guidance. So there's working with women in BIM to understand the various information management roles and responsibilities in the sector, working with HSE and the BIM for Health and Safety group to look at use case information requirements. There's development of guidance supporting the level of information need. So we know that standards out, and there's some high level guidance, but that's then developing that in a bit more detail. The good work with BIM for Housing Association and working with the next iteration of their toolkit. Supporting the 4D group with a maturity matrix, and interestingly, I think it was last week actually, they put out a really useful guide on some of the different technologies in the 4D space and looking at the various usability, functionality, etc., that actually landed quite well for us. But that was really an interesting and useful report. Will Baker-Jones is specifically just kicking off a new project to look at developing the Kobe QC reporter, and again, I think we'd love some input to that. If you're listening, you think you'd like to get involved, do get in contact in the normal channels. And of course, as we mentioned, the general updates to the and progress of the guidance and maturity of that. Thanks, Craig. Building Smart UK and Ireland. And again, Casey will be doing a bit more of an update specifically on the education piece there, but the general updates are there's been a massive task judging the Building Smart Awards and reviewing submissions on that. I know the team have been very busy there. The UK and Ireland professional certification, first tranche of the training providers able to deliver that is in application today, and I'm sure Casey will probably touch on that. They've been setting up an ISO 9650 global working group for worldwide chapters, so really positive there. That the pages are coming soon on the website for bSUKI or Building Smart UK and Ireland, the long word. And they've been developing or looking at UK specific use case requirements for IDSs or information delivery specifications. And again, in the same context, but looking at golden thread, accurate report and building safety. The usual bSUKI assemble events, and I believe there was one this morning that Casey's chaired. That happened this morning. Some of you may well have joined that as well. And basically, they're looking for greater engagement with all the members. So do look out and do get involved where you can. Thanks, Craig. And again, so looking at the Building Smart Awards, so there are 8 categories, 130 submissions, 22 finalists, 16 countries, but none from the UK, which is a bit disappointing. But I'm sure that probably, I'm sure there are many really good entries. It probably just shows the level of implementation, embracement of open standards probably around the world, and maybe that acts as a little bit of a motivation for us in the UK to keep driving that the open standards, IFC, and that way of working. But the winners are announced on the 7th of October, should you want to have a look at that, and there's a link there. Okay, my last slide. So we're trialing a solution called MyProPass, and this is so when you attend these events, specifically the forum, and we'll probably be rolling out for some of the other Alliance events, you can record and get a CPD certificate. So I'll leave that slide up for a minute. There's a link there, www.mypropass.co.uk. If you enter that into your browser, enter the event code there on the screen, that you should receive your certificate. We'd love some feedback. Is it useful for you? If those of you that have to submit CPD for your professional membership, do let us know. Leave that there for the minute, Craig. My last piece before I hand back to Craig is if I could just let you know, this is actually my last forum as part of the or as engagement co-lead. I'm stepping back from the Alliance because I've got a change of working. I'm off to work abroad in a couple of months, so just really to look back over the last 3 years, and thanks to everyone who gets involved, just even dialing into our meetings and our updates. Massively appreciated. The Alliance is about you. We can't really do anything without the input and engagement from you guys, and like a personal thanks from me to the rest of the team in the Alliance for it's been a fantastic journey. So I will hope to see you all soon, and I'll hand back to Craig. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Andy, for that update. Before I hand over to Sue, just to remind you all that if you do have any questions, enter it in the questions panel, and that will come through to us, and we'll run through that in the Q&A session in the end. So just handing over to Sue now, who's going to talk through the manufacturer's plain language guide. Over to you, Sue.
Hello, everyone. Great to be here. It's been a while since we spoke. I had a look back and it's been over a year. Now, let me just see if my slides will advance. There we go. In June 2020 at the Alliance Forum, I told you that the Institution of Engineering and Technology had set up a 4-person editorial board of volunteers to write a plain language guide to product data for construction product manufacturers. And this work didn't come out of nowhere. It was built on the work of the UKBIMA Alliance product data working group, the report from which was published in 2018. That document didn't get the traction that we'd hoped and that it should have, but it did have some very important messages for industry that still need to be heard. And I'm still getting some very positive feedback about it every so often. So what have we been doing? Well, since June 2020, we've written 7 articles for manufacturers about construction product data and held 7 open Zoom calls about them. And thank you to everyone who came on those calls. We've written the IET's response to the consultation on the Code for Construction Product Information and held a call about that. And we promoted all of that work with 21 blog posts and numerous posts on social media. And we've met with hundreds of people, including many trade associations, scores of manufacturers, and a number of key people in government as well. And now we're ready to publish the plain language guide. It's called Digitisation for Construction Product Manufacturers, a plain language guide, and it's available in a detailed 40-page report, an 8-page summary, and it also comes with a 2-pager for promotional purposes, and this is a preview of the 2-pager. And it's important for me to say that this document is not for you. It's not for you if you're a standards enthusiast, it's not for you if you're a BIM advocate, it's not for you if you're a consultant, or if you're a long-standing member of the Alliance community. It's not for you, it's for the senior executives in construction and product manufacturers and their advocates in trade associations and beyond. And it's written in language that they will identify with, and it's a tool for them. And I have to say that in what's been a very difficult year for us all, I think that we have done some of our best work, and that this document will be a major help to manufacturers to help them prepare for what we all know is a very challenging time of transformation for our industry. I'd like to pay tribute to my colleagues, Rick Hartwig, who you all know, who's provided the essential voice of calm and support to make this document the truly impartial and independent document it is. His testament to the reason why we've got so many endorsements for it. To Paul Surin, who's drawn on his years of experience in construction product manufacturing and now tech at IBM to cut through the bullshit. And Patricia Massey, who along with her comprehensive standards expertise has been a real source of support for me personally. So thank you, Trish. I know Trish and Paul are on the call today. So here are some dates and links. Publication is imminent, and I do mean imminent, like tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, Friday. We expect the landing page to go live in a day or two, and of course we'll be sharing that news on our blog and on the manufacturers PLG hashtag. I'll put all these links in the chat. I think I can do that. Then we're grateful to UK Construction Week and particularly to the Alliance for hosting the launch of the guide, which will be at the Digital Construction Hub at UK Construction Week on Wednesday next week, 6th of October at 1:15. You'll be able to hear more about what's in the guide and ask questions of the editorial board, and we're all planning to be there. And we're also very grateful to Nathan Garnett at UK Construction Week for inviting us to host a panel discussion on data ownership, security and control on the main stage at UK Construction Week on the Thursday, the 7th of October at 1:15, which means I'm going to spend a night out of the house for the first time in 18 months. We've already announced John Patsavelis, who'll be joining us, and he's on the page, landing page, if you want to go and have a look at him. And subject to COVID restrictions, which is a big problem at the moment, as you're aware, we hope to announce some other interesting panelists shortly. And finally, we've set up an IET group on LinkedIn specifically to share information about the project and next steps, and that's called Digitisation for Construction Product Manufacturers. And you can join on the short link here at the bottom of the slide. That's all I have to say, and I wonder if there are any questions.
Hi, Sue. Yes, we have one question that's come through, which I'll ask you in a moment. Sue's going to leave us literally as soon as she's finished. So if you do have any specific questions for Sue, please ask them in the questions/tabs chats window. That would be good. So I've been asked what the CPD code is again. So somebody's asking about the CPD code.
I can't help with that. I can't remember.
Okay, so what we'll do, Thomas, you've asked the question. We will find that out. Unless somebody else who's presenting on the call can answer that question right now.
MyProPass code.
Sorry?
I can tell you. The MyProPass code.
Is that what it is? I don't know.
Yes, I think that's what he means.
Yes, UK 813. That's what it is.
-813.
Brilliant. Okay. Sue, I don't have any other questions that have come through, but thank you for that presentation. Are you happy for us to share the slides afterwards?
Absolutely.
I will do that, and obviously to everybody joining in, we will share the recording as well. But thank you, Sue.
Thank you very much, everyone. Have a good session. I'm off to chair a BIM for Housing Associations workshop. So see you soon. Okay, bye.
Thank you. Bye. We're going to have to change the order of presenters, guys. So because our next presenter isn't quite online yet. So Casey, I'm going to put you on the spot if that's okay. Can we have you present? Casey?
Yes. I'm just waiting for the link to present.
Yeah, sorry, I was going to let me make you presenter. There you go. It's over to you.
Right. Okay then. Thank you everybody for joining us. So I'm going to run through with you now a little bit about the professional certification scheme, and hopefully it won't be new to you, but if it is, I'm going to give you a bit of background and where we are right now. And when we're expecting the first courses to be able to be available and the first people to be able to take the assessments. A few slides right now to address the importance of now. And apologies to those of you who joined the assemble session this morning. This is a bit of a repeat, this section. The demand is there when it comes to both competency in terms of BIM and specifically right now, in relation to interoperability and working with different pieces of software to deliver in accordance with the UK BIM framework. We've seen the draft building safety bill be published for comment, and that's going through the revision process. which is very much centered on the golden thread of health and safety, fire and life safety information throughout the life cycle of an asset. You would have seen a couple of weeks ago the Transforming Infrastructure Performance Roadmap being published. That's including our physical and social infrastructure. So there's lots of information required to drive that forward. Then later on in the year, we have COP26, where the world's nations are descending on Glasgow to discuss how we're going to deal with sustainability and climate change, and very much with the data being at the center of that. And then finally, the ever growing in its significance conversation of digital twins and how we're going to create data that works not only within one organization and their particular use case for a digital twin, but also across society as a series of connected digital twins. If you have managed to read the Transforming Infrastructure Performance Roadmap, you can download it as a PDF as you've seen on the previous slide, or you can go to the gov.uk website and find it all just as a text and a few helpful videos. Appendix B to that is the updated information management mandate. So what was the UKBIMA Level 2 mandate has now been superseded by this, the information management mandate. And you'll see items 5 and 6 and following ones in there relating to interoperability and the importance of being able to transfer information for particular uses between different technologies. So when it comes to certification and approving your competency, it's absolutely well worth doing. Just to expand a little bit on Andy's brief summary earlier, the Building Smart Awards Programme for this year has finished. The entries were received all in total in May, and then June and July there was the initial triage process to whip out the ones that didn't quite meet the standards. But then there was a judging process, which our team from the UK and Ireland have been heavily involved with. This morning, the judges picked out their favourites, not necessarily the finalists, but their favourites, and demonstrated just how much is going on using Open BIM around the world with these submissions. So there were 8 categories, as Andy mentioned earlier, 130 submissions, 22 finalists, 16 countries. But this year, unfortunately, none from the UK or Ireland. In the last 2 years, we've had winners from the UK and Ireland, but there was nothing there in terms of finalists this year. The winners are announced on the 7th of October at 1 o'clock. That is a free to join event. So if you can download the presentation from Andy earlier, there is a link in there to sign up. It's a free public link. You can use the free tickets option and find out who the winners are. But in terms of inspiring people, whether they're infrastructure based, road, rail, power, or buildings based, there is a huge amount of impressive work going on with Open BIM around the world. Well worth taking a look at. It will also be available on the YouTube channel for the UK BIM Alliance as Assemble 7 as soon as the video is uploaded. So in terms of the professional certification to demonstrate that we can do these things as individuals, the work that we do here is from the UK BIM Alliance is here to help the built environment sector to take that first fundamental step on the digital transformation journey, to promote BIM as business as usual, and to transform and future-proof the way the industry works. Building Smart, on the other side of things, is a worldwide industry body to drive the digital transformation of the built asset industry using open international standards and developing those open international standards. And the certification program enables learning organizations to educate and certify individuals according to a recognized global learning framework. From an individual's perspective, it's very much travels with you, so it's not a company certification. And it ensures that there's standards met irrespective of where you take the certification. It's important to note that the certification that the UK and Ireland chapter offer is the only place that you can access the UK and Ireland body of knowledge and training program and certification. So if you went to another chapter around the world, they can only offer you their local certification and the global modules 1 to 5. And I'll explain a little bit more about that in 1 second. So the certification program won't drive any specific commercial gain for specific certification or training providers. It won't lock you into one or other service provider. It embraces the Building Smart Global Professional Certification Program. And it has alignment from the UK BIM Alliance Building Smart British Standards Institution, Building Smart and CDBB. It's a strategy defining and developing a level of digital competence for the UK framework delivery. And the certification has the following objectives. It will support the standardization of open BIM training content to assure that consistency across different training providers. It will support the standardization of UK BIM framework training content. It will support the standardization of UK and Ireland specific training content and enable the recognition of approved training organisations and enable the testing, qualification and recognition of individuals. Benefits to trainers, you will receive, if you are a trainer, an approved trainer, you will receive the body of knowledge that kickstarts the content, the creation of the content of your training courses. It ensures those courses are kept up to date and reflective of best practice. You'll benefit from the learning guidelines and support from the local chapter, us as the UK and Ireland chapter, which we then lean on the international chapters also. And it enables training providers to brand their courses as Building Smart approved and registered. In terms of the individuals, as we said earlier, standardized training content based on latest international standards. It's a globally recognized qualification and a mark of quality assurance. And there's a simple, fast, secure online testing and qualification process. And we're engaging the industry in the right thing. So it's making sure that the information is interoperable through various different use cases and tasks. It obviously supports the TIP, as we call it, and the information management mandate, and the golden thread of information, as we've already discussed. And obviously we're embracing Uniclass, IFC and COBE that meets and is all part of the UK BIM framework. There are different types of certification. The one on the far left is about the company certification, and that is to demonstrate that a company has the processes and resources in place to be able to deliver within a certain project environment. Then we have the foundational knowledge, which is all about an individual personal qualification. And then above that, we have the practitioner knowledge. So it's about the practical demonstration that you can deliver certain things. And we're not just winging this. In educational terms, there is a standard way of layering this education and starting with the foundations. It's called Bloom's Digital Taxonomy, and it's about remembering, understanding, applying, analysing, evaluating and creating. So this is very much the foundation of how these courses have been created. There are other individual courses coming up and being developed, and as and when they come on stream, we'll be able to offer those. So just repeating, we're initially focusing on launching the foundation professional certification, which will then lead into others. Probably also worth noting that the COBE module here is also currently available around the world. That is non-UK specific at the moment. It's the global version. In terms of industry alignment, obviously people should be aware that Building Smart is a work stream, if you like, within the UK BIM Alliance, many of the same people, but we're the group that focuses specifically on Open BIM and the liaison with the international organisations. So we are one and the same organisation. So in that respect, everything's tied together. Now on the right-hand side, we have the UK BIM framework, a tripartite agreement with British Standards Institution and CDBB. That's going through a renewal, and we're looking to bring other organisations into that fold as well. So that's very much influenced in that side. On the left-hand side, we can see Building Smart International and the other 26 global chapters around the world who all contributed to creating the training content. And that's all to do with best practice through the Open BIM process. So it's joined in terms of taking a global approach and then nationalising it and creating this certification scheme that meets the needs of both. So we are looking to add the Open BIM process to the history of BIM as it is developed in the UK and Ireland. And we're getting to the point now where this certainly will support the TIP and the new information management mandate. I'm not going to go over this slide again, but we do recommend that any individuals that want to take an educational program take a course that embodies the UK BIM framework and Open BIM also. And that we've ensured that via the Building Smart UK and I steering committee and the work of Phil Reed from Man and Machine, leading that piece of work, that the PCERT, the professional certification, aligns fully to the UK BIM framework and the published learning outcomes. So it's all there and ready to go. So in terms of the standards, the assessment development, we have what you call the Learning Outcome Framework modules 1 to 5. They very much deal with open BIM at an international level. We add that to a specific body of knowledge that we've created called Module 6, and chapters around the world can create their Module 6, which is the regionalization of the specific requirements in that particular country. And we add those together, and that would be the Building Smart Professional Certification that meets the UK BIM framework. In terms of their content, the modules 1 to 5 are very much about open BIM, about IFC and the broader ISO 19650 landscape. Module 6 fills all the gaps that exist between that and between 1 to 5 and the UK BIM framework. So it is about UK BIM framework and the learning outcomes, the national annex, government soft landings, the construction playbook, the TIP, construction 2025 and Uniclass 2015. So it fills all of those gaps and makes sure all of those things are included. So again, reiterating that this is purely the foundation layer of knowledge. It's available and applicable to anyone, I would suggest, who wants to demonstrate that they have a personal experience and professional understanding of the foundation of the UK BIM framework. And other modules will be coming. Now, we can share these slides afterwards. There's no problem, no need to frantically write down what's on screen. But what you can see on this diagram is the basic learning outcomes, the headings of modules 1 to 5, and module 6 is on the right-hand side. So there is a significant, what they call the body of knowledge that sits behind each of these, which is what will be provided to the training providers once they sign up to build their courses to make sure that they can map their current content against the content that was required for this certification. And if there are any gaps, they need to fill those gaps before they deliver the training. In terms of the process, there's a few clouds up here that shouldn't be up here yet in this animation, but we have our UK chapter in the center. The training provider will apply to us to become an approved training provider. They can then become an approved provider with their badges. They can then market their training courses, and the students will join those training courses. That training provider will issue exam codes. The student will then take the exam on the Building Smart International exam portal. If they then pass, that's good. That bodes well for the training provider. If there are a number of students that don't pass, then Building Smart International will take that as a feedback and will approach the training provider to suggest that they change or modify or improve either their content or the way they deliver the training itself. So that's a very, very quick run through where we are. In terms of timing, the application NDAs have gone to a number of training providers this morning after initial introduction. So they have to sign their NDAs and then the application process will start in earnest. UK and Ireland chapter are putting systems in place in the background to enable the application process and the funds and the sign up. So everything's going to plan, just a little bit slower than expected. And in terms of training course delivery, we would expect providers to be able to start delivering those courses in the new year, if not at the tail end of this year. If there are any questions, happy to take them now or later if that's what we need to do.
Thanks, Casey. I think we'll do questions at the end, but just a reminder that if you have any questions, please post them in the questions panel. Thanks, Casey. So,
nice, thank you. So
now we'll hand over to Fiona Moore, who's going to talk about the Government and Industry Interoperability Group.
Thanks very much. Lots of people have problems with that word. I hope I don't throughout this presentation. I hope you can see me. I'm not using my usual webcam, so Pam pointed out to me earlier that it chopped off the top of my head, but anyway, that'll keep you amused. I'm here to give you an update on the GIG, the Government and Industry Interoperability Group. Some of you will have heard me speak about it before, some won't. So in addition to general introduction, I'll let you know what's on the forefront of our minds at the moment. I will repeat some of what Casey's been talking about because government policy is very much coming to the fore at the moment. So I'll be talking about the tip. But just to begin with, who are we? Well, we're a group that have come together. We have been brought together by government to address the issue of interoperability. And why do we need to address this issue? Well, I think the fundamental problem is we talk a lot about procuring information, we talk a lot about standards and process, but we aren't doing enough to share how to. It's all about how, where does the rubber hit the road and how do we achieve beneficial outputs? Why interoperability? Well, there's a lot of clients asking for information digitally. We all know that they do that in a very mixed way. Some are very advanced, many aren't. But what worries me is that they're asking for something that they can't reap any benefit from. In other words, they're asking for information to pass to them, cross the contract line, but they can't make use of it because the information is not interoperable. And what do we mean? Well, the ability of two or more systems to exchange information securely and to use the information that's been exchanged. So we are talking about an open approach. We're not talking about information contained within proprietary systems. Although we need proprietary systems, we need to be able to take that information out of that system and use it elsewhere. It's information that needs to be defined in terms of its purpose, and it's information that, as I said, is exchanged digitally across a contract line. So that brings to bear contractual issues as well as technology and practical issues. And the focus has to be not just on the capital stage. I think the problem has been because we started very much with BIM and collaboration and the efficiencies that all good information management brings to the capital phase, people have too often neglected the whole asset approach of digital and information. So we've been brought together to fill in some gaps, address some issues, and I'll talk more about that. But why is where are government in this, and why have government brought this together? Let me just change slides because I've got a different setup. That's interesting. So, as Casey made reference to, the Transforming Infrastructure Performance Roadmap 2030 was published earlier this month. And in that, government states very clearly its approach to BIM and information management. It's a successor to the government's construction strategy, and along with the construction playbook that I'll mention in a minute and the national infrastructure strategy, it replaces previous government construction strategy. So as Casey says, where we originally had the government construction strategy with the BIM mandate, this is the document that currently replaces that. Within it, it references the UK BIM framework 8 times. It references BIM 44 times. It's all about improving information management. There is a lot of reference in there to the future state, the information management framework, the digital twin, but it talks about this foundational layer that we need to get information management right now in order to prepare for a future and the utilization of that information. So hence, in Appendix B or Annex B, you'll find the information management mandate. The original government construction strategy and the original BIM mandate was, if those of you are familiar with it will know, was very short and said very little more than do BIM. That was necessary because back when the government construction strategy was released in summer of 2011, we didn't have very many BIM standards. We now do. We also have the move to ISO. We also have the UK BIM framework. I would advise you all to have a look at the information management mandate and see what we're advising clients to do. More than that, what we're saying that government clients will do. So within that, it's very focused on what a client needs to do to facilitate this process and ask for information in the right way. It's not set in stone to the extent that it will evolve to incorporate processes and standards which support greater interoperability. So interoperability is again to the fore. It's not just asking for something that's out there done by others who are part of the supply chain. It's asking for something that will provide government benefit to government, and hence it recognises the importance of interoperable data. In addition to the TIP, we have the construction playbook, which was released nearly a year ago, and it is again part of government's construction strategy. It gives guidance to government departments and arm's length bodies who are procuring public works projects and programmes. The aim of it is to improve various areas: safety, cost, speed, quality. It's about upskilling the workforce, but it clearly recognises that we can do a lot of that through the promotion of greater data sharing. So actually we're finding that people and government and various client organisations are understanding that not only interoperable data but quality data is the foundation layer of many initiatives. It represents a contract or agreement with industry, sorry, a compact rather than a contract, and it very much endorses, again, the UK BIM framework. So the context of what the gig are doing is set by government increasingly focusing on the need for information management and interoperability. So back to the gig. Those of you who've seen me present before have seen this slide before, but I can't say it strongly enough. It's about real world application. We have strategy, we have theory, we have standards, we have process, but it's about how. My constant mantra is how, because with us achieving this foundational level, we can look to the future. So we don't talk about the digital twin directly because we're not in that space, but we're cognizant that we are feeding processes and understanding to those who are developing the digital twin, and to that end there is dialogue between the gig and those that are involved in developing the digital twin. We have 5 work streams, and in future when you hear me present I will talk more about the importance of these work streams to interoperability, because I kind of assumed in the past that people would have sufficient knowledge to know that classification, namely in the UK Uniclass 2015, is essential to achieving interoperability of information. That work stream is currently very much focused on Uniclass and sharing with industry its development, but moreover listening to industry as it develops. In the near future, MBS will be publicising more the creation of a Uniclass advisory board, which will be polling opinion for industry to ensure that as the classification, Uniclass classification develops, that MBS are cognizant of how it serves industry and how it can be best improved. Casey leads the industry foundation class and COBE work stream. They're doing a lot of work at the moment around something called an information delivery specification. We're engaging with people to define these use classes for information that will help people better use IFC and get the outputs that they need based on use cases. And we will be saying a lot more about that publicly in the very near future, and I'll say more of that at the end of my presentation. We have a work stream called the Information Management Platform, which Graham Tappenden leads, and that is around client entities understanding how they procure, assure, receive, protect the crown jewels when it comes to information. So that's a really important work stream, and it also involves increased understanding of client organisations and upskilling. Paul Wilkinson leads the Technologies and Openness Workstream, so that's our touch point with tech vendors, because we need technology vendors to help us to achieve this, and we need to be talking to them, and parties need to be learning from one another. So Paul's heading up that workstream. And we have a workstream which is around procurement for interoperability, which Simon Lewis leads, which allows us to start to address the contractual nature of all of this and make sure that those procurers properly understand how best to write contracts to achieve information management outputs that are beneficial to the client and interoperable. We're very focused on data reliability. At the end of the day, we're not going to get benefits, and we're also not going to get buy-in and increased engagement with this unless we make sure that the information we're providing is reliable. So again, that is very much a contractual issue. And what we're trying to do is up the quality, because we're not going to get to beneficial outcomes of the digital twin if the data we receive is nonsense. I mean, that's the way to undermine the whole process. The GIGS ethos, briefly, we have a clear understanding of our objectives. We always share our opinions and our reasoning. We're here to listen and learn, respect one another, adapt our opinions, and accept that no individual can provide all the answers. It's tricky, isn't it? Because you'll always have people who say, listen to me, I've got the solution. That, we're learning increasingly that isn't the case. We've all got part of a jigsaw puzzle. So we're about leading by example, listening, and displaying the right behaviours and considering each other, because we all have a perspective on this. And our aim is to help try and grow consensus across very key stakeholders. So how are we going to grow that consensus? It's about engagement, and increasingly you will see us engage. So we have a program of engagement during Digital Construction Week. Ahead of that, we'll be releasing our website, which will start to contain material that you can use and start to better understand what we're up to. But just briefly, at Digital Construction Week, we'll have Fergus Herodance from government, he's from BAYS, talking about the government's construction playbook and the importance of the UK BIM framework and interoperability to achieving the government's objectives. So if you want to learn more about that, he'll be on the main stage. I'll be talking about interoperability and why it matters, and talking about that, the various 5 work streams, how their interplay, and how we're aiming to improve interoperability and exactly what we mean by that. We'll be giving a real world example of what the Environment Agency is up to in terms of its implementation of what we're calling an information management platform, or IMP for short. And Graham Tappenden and Karen Alford will be sharing their experiences of that. So if you have client organisations who need to learn about their end of things and the importance of information management, then that would definitely be one for them. We'll be talking about how useful classification is, and also how useful mapping is, its benefits and limitations. And Sarah Delaney will be presenting on that from Uniclass, and Emma Hooper will be helping, sort of getting us into that space between Uniclass and Industry Foundation class. And then Casey and Emma will be speaking at the BIM Village about IFC and information delivery specifications. I know Casey's listening to me at the moment, so I'm not even going to try and explain it, but come along to Digital Construction Week to learn more. And then we'll be running an hour-long workshop for beginners on specification, delivery, and checking information using IFC. So that's Casey, Emma, John Hall, and Nick Nesbitt. So do come along and listen into that. There you go. That's some free training, because as I understand it this year, the event will be free to attend, including those presentations on the main stage. So basically, we're very busy. We'll be talking more and becoming more public. We only started in April. It is built on the back of work that happened previously, but we'll be looking to have a more public facing persona. over time, and we will be increasingly engaging. Casey has already done a degree of stakeholder engagement over the information delivery specifications, and we'll be looking over time to do more of that so we can show those behaviours I spoke about, listen and learn and share. So that's everything from me, other than to show you our animated logo. Casey thinks it looks a little like a face and put glasses on it once, which is very amusing. But it's the Government and Industry Interoperability Group, and we show a dot passing between the two Gs because we want to reiterate this is about information passing over a contract line so that that information can be properly exploited to the benefit of all parties. So the reason the dot goes back again is because you, if you are a supplier, quite often need assured information that you from client entities as well. So it's all about getting that information across the contract line and exploiting it. Thank you.
Thank you, Fiona, for that very informative presentation on the gig. Just a reminder again for everyone, any questions, please keep them coming in through the questions panel, and we'll do a Q&A session at the end. Handing over now to Sarah Davidson, who's going to take us through the UK BIM framework guidance. Sarah, over to you.
Thank you very much. Hopefully you can see my screen. Can you just confirm?
Yeah.
Well, okay. Thank you very much, everybody, and I hope you've enjoyed the presentation so far. And apologies if my voice goes. I'm suffering a little bit with a cold, but I'm going to give you an update on where we are with the guidance to the ISO 19650 series of standards. Just to give you a little bit of information about me. I'm a member of the UK BIM Alliance and lead the implementation arm of that, which is really all about getting projects live and published. Oh, it looks like I'm on some sort of animation thing with my slides. Sorry about that. I'm a Director of Education at the University of Nottingham and a teaching academic, and I teach primarily around information management and modelling. And before my move to the university in 2018, I'd worked in industry for some significant time. That working gave me a lot of project experience, working with a variety of clients in different sectors, and I also worked on consultancy and contracting. And you know, throughout that time in industry, my experience was frequently that I would be at the hands of poor information. And in my role as a QS, I was often trying to fix that poor information. So good information management, efficient and effective information management is really important to me personally. This slide was destined to get on. It was very keen to get on screen, evidently. Both Fiona and Casey mentioned the TIP roadmap to 2030. And I just want to really build upon what Fiona said, particularly around the UK BIM framework. So in the roadmap, it says that the information management mandate sets out the information management requirements for government clients that will be delivered through the application of the UK BIM framework. So the UK BIM framework was referenced in the construction playbook, which Fiona has already talked about, but it really gives the UK BIM framework a very strong position through this information management mandate. I think the biggest thing is that it publicises the UK BIM framework, and it's putting it in a context where it can be effective. So we're really in a good place. The UK BIM framework sort of started off life in its current guise in 2018 with the release of the first two ISO 19650 series of standards. It continues to grow and will do, but the positioning through the construction playbook, through the TIP, really means that it is central, fundamental to how we design, deliver, operate our assets into the future. So just to reflect on what the UK BIM framework is, it's a series of standards that directly support information management. These are primarily the ISO 19650 series, and that comprises ISO 19650 Part 1, which is the concepts of the ISO 19650 series and information management overall. Part 2, which is about information management using building information modeling for the delivery phase of assets, so projects. Part 3 is about the operational phase, so asset management. Part 5 is about a security-minded approach. Now, Part 4 is currently being authored, and I think it's out to consultation, or the consultation period has just closed. And that will replace BS 1192 Part 4 when it's published, which I'm anticipating will be next year. Now, the most recent update to the ISO 19650 series was to ISO 19650 Part 2, the delivery phase, and the update was the national annex. So that has, some of you may be familiar with the updates to the national annex, but that has introduced some change, and a significant element of guidance that we will be releasing shortly will cover the changes brought about by that national annex. Now, the UK BIM framework isn't just the ISO 19650 series of standards. It until BS 1192 Part 4 is superseded by the ISO version, then that standard is also part of the UK BIM framework, as is PAS 1192 Part 6, which covers health and safety. That too will be taken into the ISO 19650 series at some point over the next couple of years. Now, the other two standards that sit alongside the ISO 19650 series and within the UK BIM framework are BS 8536 Parts 1 and 2. Now, they cover asset management, but we're probably more familiar with thinking about these standards as covering soft landings. Now, again, there is a lot of work underway with the standards. Those two standards are being combined into a single standard, and are in the update process and will be published as BSs next year. So they're the standards that sit within the UK BIM framework. And to help the implementation of the standards, because what the standards do is they tell us what we need to be doing, but not how to go about that. So to help us all, we are developing guidance and also some resources. And this is so that we can adopt the UK BIM framework with confidence, and so that we can publish the experiences and understanding of those people in industry that have been exposed to the implementation of ISO 19650 and the information management processes. So this is what I'm going to talk about today, and apologies, I've been talking about this now for 3 years, so many of you will have heard a lot of this content, but for some of you it may be new. So the guidance is developed by a group of dedicated individuals, and they give their time and experience and expertise for free. Now, this group did first get together in 2018, which on the one hand seems ages ago, and on the other seems just like yesterday. People that are involved in this guidance group, they undertake various activities and multiple activities. So you can be involved as an author, as a sort of a contributing author, as providing feedback, or you can do 2 or 3 of those things. We last met in February, so if you're a member of that team and you've been thinking, okay, what's going off, then we have been working in the background quite hard, and we are going to see a release of new guidance towards the end of this month. So when we met in February, we planned the content that's currently being authored, and we looked at how the guidance should evolve. Since it has been around now for nearly 3 years, it's inevitably going to take different shape, grow in different ways. And so we've been very busy behind the scenes thinking about its evolution and also getting the authoring going. Now, the content is edited by Anne Kemp, David Churcher and myself, and we've been a constant editing team since day one. And we sit alongside the guidance group, and we manage and the authoring process and the publication of the guidance. What I would say is that we also work closely with CDBB and BSI in the publication of the guidance, as it is part of the UK BIM framework. Now, just recently, I think it was July actually, the guidance was released in as, or you could access the guidance via an interactive platform. And that the decision to make the guidance available in that way was instigated by the discussion really that we had in February to make the guidance more accessible. So when you go on to the UKBIMFramework.org website, you'll see that you can access PDFs of the guidance if that's what you're familiar with, but you can also navigate yourself through the guidance via the interactive platform. And we hope really that that is going to ease your navigation, although we do know that we've still got some work to do on that. So the structure of the guidance is, as you can see on the screen now, so I'm just going to talk through that very briefly. The Part 1 guidance sets out the concepts of the ISO 19650 series. Now, that was the first guidance to be authored, and it hasn't been updated since it was released in 2019, well, not significantly anyway. So we are going to be undertaking a review of that guidance now and updating it so that it aligns with the more detailed guidance that's been subsequently published. On the second row, you'll see that there's Part 2 guidance, and that covers the specific requirements of ISO 19650 Part 2, looking at the delivery phase of assets. So when you access that guidance, you'll see that it explains about the different parties that are referenced in the ISO 19650 series. There are 3 different parties: the appointing party, the lead appointed party, and appointed party. And the guidance explains the relationship between these parties, so you can work out who you would be if you're implementing the ISO 19650 Part 2 requirements. And what I would say is that those parties are consistent with ISO 19650 Part 3 as well. Part 2 also looks at the requirements of each of the subclauses within Clause 5. Now, we can think about the Clause 5 within Part 2 as sort of the activity clause. That's the clause that sets out who's going to do what and when. So in the guidance, we have a clause review, if you like, that sets out who the responsible party is for a clause, who they might be interacting with, what the activity entails, and when it will be carried out. Now, in Part 2, we've also got the first release of guidance about the implementation of the new National Annex, so I'll refer to that as the 2021 National Annex, and that content was released in February. It is just going and undergoing an extension now, which has been authored by Martin Horn to look at the more detailed implementation of the National Annex. And then finally, in Guidance Part 2, there's a detailed process map that takes you step by step through each of the Clause 5 activities. So it's a visual of when an activity needs to take place, who is responsible for it, and what the interactions are. Now, the Part 3 guidance, which is in orange on your screen, that takes the same approach as Part 2, but it is specific to Part 3. There is no guidance yet for ISO 19650 Part 4. That's just a placeholder because, as I mentioned earlier, that standard hasn't yet been published. And then ISO 19650 Guidance Part 5, which is about a security-minded guidance, has already been published by the Centre for Protection of National Infrastructure, CPNI, and you can get to that via their website. Now, the guidance that's sat on the bottom line of the previous screen, that's what I will refer to as cross-cutting guidance. So as there are 6 guidance publications, A, B, C, D, E, and F, and they are common to both, or they pull from both ISO 19650 Part 2 and ISO 19650 650 Part 3. So that's why I'm calling them cross-cutting guidance. Guidance Part A covers primarily the information management function. It explains the activities that need to be carried out, and it includes an information management assignment matrix. Now, that sets out all of the information management activities in ISO 19650 Part 2 and includes consideration of ISO 19650 Part 5. It's a really helpful resource to ensure that all of the activities are at least considered when somebody's carrying out the information management or somebody is fulfilling the information management role, not role, but activities. We're currently working on the scope of services that will work hand in hand with that assignment matrix. Guidance Part A also offers a resource map, and that supports the information management framework. And that's currently being updated to include the resources specifically referenced in ISO 19650 Part 3 and in Part 5. Guidance B currently covers open data and building smart standards, and it will cover COBE when ISO 19650 Part 4 is published. Guidance Part C covers the common data environment in terms of workflow and technology. It looks at the assignment of metadata as required by the National Annex, and that too is currently being updated by John Ford, who is the original author, to reflect the new 2021 National Annex. Guidance Part D, that's a biggie. That explains the importance of properly structured information requirements. So there's a huge amount of work that's gone into Guidance Part D, and it also picks up on the level of information need as well. At the current publication, it includes quite a few examples of how you would move from organizational information requirements to asset and project information requirements, and then express those in exchange information requirements. Now, we've been working quite hard with the HSE over the last 3 months to develop examples that also consider health and safety. Guidance Part E currently covers the information standard, the information management protocol, and the BIM execution plan to support tendering and appointment activities. And that's going to be extended with publication shortly to cover content about the information production and procedures. Guidance Part F explains some of the information planning, delivery planning resources. So that is the high level and the detailed responsibility matrix or matrices, and the task information delivery plans, and the master information plan as well. Earlier this year, we released an information protocol to support ISO 19650 Part 2. It's the only one that's available in the UK. And it can be used with standard forms of contract, including those that have a collaboration focus, and it can also be used with bespoke forms of contract, and it's drafted in a way which requires minimal alteration and can be used between clients and people they appoint, so consultants and contractors, and then organisations that those consultants and contractors will appoint, so consultants, subcontractors. So it's designed to be completely, or to cascade throughout a delivery team with minimal intervention. And to support its implementation, we produced a step-by-step guidance, which you can access either a standalone guidance, or you can see that content in Guidance Part E as well. So that's what we've done to date, but hopefully you'll be interested in what's coming next. And our planned publication date is towards the end of October. I always sort of say that with my fingers crossed and a caveat going through my mind, because everybody that's involved in the guidance activity is doing it as well as working, and we all know that we're extremely busy at the moment. And so there has to be a little bit of flex on when publication or when this new content sees the light of day. I've already mentioned a lot of this, so I'm just going to skim through it. We are going to be editing the Part 1 guidance around the concepts so that we can make sure that it aligns more closely with the more detailed guidance we've been developing since 2019. There'll be the update to Part 2 that Martin Horn has authored for the implementation of the 2021 National Annex. There's going to be the update to the Part A resources map to bring in resources referencing or referenced in Part 3 and Part 5. And I'm also hopeful that we'll be able to reference the scope of service that's being developed, or at least one example of a scope of service. I said that that Part C is being updated by John Ford to accommodate the 2021 National Annex, and the information requirements examples are being extended to cover examples that are relevant or that you might see for health and safety. Part E is being updated to include reference to the information production methods and procedures, and we are extending the text around the BIM execution plan as well. There will be a minor update to the protocol supporting the delivery phase, and it's very, very minor. It's about the definition of the BIM execution plan, so please don't be concerned if you've got that protocol in place now. But that was an update that was triggered through some feedback. So we really do welcome your feedback because it is helping all of the content move in the right direction. And then I feel like I should have a drum roll here, but we will also be releasing the first draft of the protocols to support the operational phase of ISO 19 Part 3. So although as a group we've not met since February, there has been a huge amount of work going on since then. All guidance content has been subject to a feedback process, so we've just undergone a whole feedback activity. And I'd like to thank you if you've been participated in that feedback process, particularly Nigel Davis and Craig Hardingham for managing all of that, because it was a big endeavour. And I would really encourage you to please do continue to provide us feedback, and you can do that via guidance feedback at ukbimframework.org. Other work that we are moving forward on is looking at the user interface and developing the navigation. We've done some work through the release of the online platform, but there is definitely more to do. And I think we'll be able to do more when we take a persona-based wayfinding approach as well. And the other thing is that we've received lots of comments that the guidance is very technical, and it is necessarily so, but of course that is only maybe reaching a small-ish audience. So we want to look at developing more principles guidance so we can reach a wider audience, at least give them knowledge and insight as to what the UK framework entails. And I'm just going to finish finally. These are my final thoughts. So the UK BIM framework is now mandated, but that mandate only relates to an element of the sector. Now, I've always thought that mandates are generally trying to promote something that is beneficial. So if we can bring wide and deep benefits, then let's do what we need to do to increase the adoption of the UK BIM framework, not just for certain arms of the public sector, but for all of us. Now, successful adoption and realisation of the benefits is wholly reliant on asset and project teams working together, and that's to require, generate, authorise and accept information. And I think that working together, that collaboration, that has to be a good thing, surely. And I think that if you require information, you produce it or you manage it, and let's face it, that's probably going to be every single one of us on this call, then the UK BIM framework will help you to do that effectively. And I shall call it a day there. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sarah, for that update on the guidance, and being involved in the guidance feedback myself. Just have to tip my hat. As Sarah said, it's a monumental effort to get all that information in there, reviewed and out. But it's something that we should be really proud of, because it's seen as a valuable resource in industry. So thank you to everyone involved in that. So we are now on to the question and answers section of the forum. So if I could ask the remaining presenters to come back, So I think Fiona's had to leave us for another appointment. So if I could ask Andy, Sarah and Casey to come back for the question and answers.
Certainly.
Okay. The first question, I think you're going to have to field this one, Andy, because Fiona's not here.
That's fine.
Does the gig replace the CDBB BIM Interoperability group expert group?
That's from Gareth. Yes, it does, Gareth. Exactly that. I think that the BAIG, as we called it, had a year of funding under CDBB. That year completed, and then the collective moved over to CPNI, who are then funding and driving the gig group forward. So yeah, it's essentially the same body of work, just under a different guise and name.
Okay, thanks, Andy, for that. Sticking on that theme, there's another question come in. Is the gig a formal replacement to the previous BIG teams?
Yeah, it's the same question and the same answer, yes.
Okay, sorry.
I think we might have missed, there was one at the top from Stuart Byford about the training providers. Have they been identified for that foundation building smart UK and Ireland training or module? Is Casey with us? I don't know if you can answer that, Casey.
The first tranche have been, and we, as I said, we've been onboarding them over a period of months, actually, not regularly, but we've made the introduction, we've done the follow-up meetings, and this morning sent out the non-disclosure agreements for them to sign, so that we can send them the full application pack. So the reason we're doing it in small tranches is to enable us as a chapter to make sure that our back of house systems are stress tested in a small environment first, and then we roll out and open up to other organisations. And in fact, in the past 2 days, I've had 2 other organisations approach us to say that they'd like to be approved training providers as well.
Excellent. Sorry, Craig, I jumped in there.
No, that's no problem. Whilst we're with you, actually, Casey, the next one, if you could take this one as well. How is the information mandate being enforced on projects? Historically, the BIM mandate was not used or followed effectively. Is there a plan to help clients provide a much more structured and policed process of digital project engagement?
I would love to be able to say yes. Let's remember that, as Sarah said, the mandate only specifically applies to centrally procured government projects, although that may have been expanded to all government projects now. But we're seeing the private sector take off, as we did with BIM Level 2, in more in quicker ways than government in some ways. Essentially, the IPA is responsible for it, and there will be a mechanism in place to ensure that it does happen. There is a policy there in the tip that will make sure that it is required.
I think, Casey, as well, we're also working on the common assessment standard, aren't we, to make sure that the means of evaluation that used to be supported by PAS 91 is more appropriate to information management and the ISO 19650 series.
Thanks both of you for those responses. Sarah, I've got one. I think you highlighted it at the end of your presentation. When is the information protocol for part 3 going to be available?
Yes, there is. So we've got the first draft done now, and we're looking to release that by the end of October. We've, just like we did guidance for the information management protocol for part 2, we'll be doing guidance for this part 3 protocol. So there might just be a slightly delay with the protocol being available, but it follows a very similar approach. So if you can keep an eye out for it at the end of October, sort of early November, but it's nearly there.
Fantastic. And then Andy, if I can get you to answer this one, why is the level of information need, as in the standard BSEN 17412 not included as part of the UK BIM framework?
Yeah, so I scratched my head a bit with this a little while back. So and it specifically referenced part 2 of that, and that's because, well, certainly at the moment, part 2 doesn't exist. It's not published. Part 1 is out there, and Sarah might be the best person. Part 1 of level of information is because it's why is that not part of the UK BIM framework? That's a good question.
Well, to be honest, there's a sort of a triage process to go through in looking at what falls within the UK BIM framework, and just because it's not there now, it doesn't mean it won't never be part of the UK BIM framework. And we are actually going to be working with Marcia Bolpagni, who was the lead author, I think, on that standard to develop guidance around the level of information needed. So although the standard doesn't feature in the UK BIM framework at the moment, the guidance does feature it because, of course, it's a critical aspect of defining information requirements. So it could well form part of the UK BIM framework, but there is a triage process.
Yeah, Sarah, would I be right in thinking there'll probably be core standards that are currently listed there and maybe related ones, and it could end up being one of the related ones potentially ahead?
Yeah, we just have to be a bit careful because we don't want to overwhelm everybody with standards, because then the UK BIM framework would never be adopted because it would become too complicated.
Yeah, and again, part 2, because I had the same question. That isn't, I believe, the last that may well be in train and being worked on, or it may never exist. So we don't know at the moment whether part 2 is going to happen. Sarah, you might know more, but that was my last.
I don't know. Well, I think that would either be Anne or David Church who will know more about that, or Marcia indeed.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Thank
you.
you. I can't see any new coming in at the minute. Give it a couple of seconds. If people have got further questions, please post them in the questions window. No, I think that's it for questions. So thank you to Casey, Sarah, Andy, Sue, and Fiona for our presentations today. Been some fantastic information on show and going through all of the activities of the Alliance, which I'll move on to. The Alliance doesn't exist without you. You are the lifeblood of the Alliance, and it only works through volunteers giving up their time to make this industry a better place and working towards digital transformation. There are a number of ways to get involved. All of those are on the screen now. The reality is there's so much work that we need to do and can do to improve our industry. We need as many people as we can get. So please get involved with us. There's some great work going on, as you've seen today, and your help would be greatly appreciated. So I'd just like to finish off for thanking you again, Andy, Sarah, Casey, Fiona, and Sue for our presentations, and thank you for attending for this quarter. We will have another forum towards the end of the year in the last quarter, and hopefully we'll start to see people in person again soon. So thank you for attending, and see you again soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.